I panicked and flung a giant spider straight at a child and feel awful. I was deep into a house cleaning binge because depression had turned my place into a total mess. So I was sweeping the bathroom when a huge spider scurried out from behind the toilet, and I screamed and bolted out of instinct and grabbed a cup and an envelope to rescue it instead of kill it. I live in an apartment with one neighbor whose kids are home for spring break. So as I opened my door, 2 kids aged 5 to 8 stood waiting, and my goofy dog tumbled forward to greet them, and I had to choose between holding him or the spider. And I lunged for my dog, and the cup flew, and the spider shot out and hit the litter kid, who started screaming, and then his sister screamed and swatted at him to shoo the spider, while my dog crashed into me in the tiny hallway, and I finally shoved him inside and hustled the kids away, apologizing over and over, and they ended up laughing. But I still feel horrible. 2 days later, a story from Opopo.
I'm genuinely sorry the OP was torn between saving that spider and stopping her dog, because I feel her panic and regret deeply, but also admire that she spared the creature instead of squishing it.
Maybe the OP's clumsy panic revealed more about her own fear than the spider deserved. So, is she really the innocent hero she claims to be?
The OP could turn a simple spider rescue into a full-on hallway circus, with a shrieking kid, an overexcited dog, and more chaos than a midnight monster mash.
The OP's guilt trip is understandable, but she needed to leash her dog first, and calmly escort the spider outside instead of flinging it across the hallway.
My 19-year-old brother is acting oddly possessive and accuses me of jealousy over his girlfriend. Ever since I left home for college, I and my 19-year-old brother have stayed close, so when he moved in with me, I thought we would just share rent and good times, but instead, he freaked out when I started casually dating, demanded I not bring guys over, and blamed me for all my broken relationships. After a series of arguments, he finally let me have my freedom, but only after I threatened to break my lease. Then I discovered he was rooting through my things and hiding my perfume, clothes, and lotion. Things peaked when he brought over his new girlfriend, who looked and dressed like me, and then accused me of jealousy when I asked them to keep their public displays of affection in their own room. I told him I was giving notice. He called me names I will not repeat. Then he punched me in the face and left me bleeding on the floor. The next day, I packed up, called my mom while walking to my car, and then filed a police report with my roommate by my side. The police took my statement, pictures of my bruises, and promised a detective would follow up. His girlfriend thanked me for checking in, and I reached out to my dad, who revealed my brother had a history of violent outbursts, and offered me legal help. I am meeting with a lawyer tomorrow, and have not spoken to my brother since I locked my bedroom door and walked away from that apartment for good. A story from Direct-Caterpillar77.
I feel for the OP and admire how bravely she stood up for herself, and I hope she knows she deserves a safe space and unwavering respect.
I am curious why the OP tolerated her brother's controlling freakouts before he threw a punch, and I bet there are deeper secrets worth uncovering.
I cannot even believe the OP's brother cast his girlfriend as her mirror image for a twisted power play, and that is pure reality show gold.
The OP had to cut her losses and call the police sooner, instead of negotiating with an abusive roommate who had zero respect for her boundaries.
He won't talk after I joked about his back acne. What now? I'm 29 and have been dating my boyfriend for almost 9 months. He's 27, and in the first 7 months, we had fun, but the last 2 months, he's mocked my figure, calling me fat, even though I'm 125, and 5'4", and I have PCOS bloating, and a primordial pouch. He jokes that I'm beautiful and ugly but brushes it off. Yesterday, he teased my belly rolls again, and I fired back by telling him to lend me his back, so I could Google how many rolls he has since he has back acne. He shut down and hasn't talked to me in a day. I respect people with acne because I had it myself, so now I feel bad. I'm not sorry I defended myself, but I'm confused if I'm the jerk. He used to talk about forever and kids, and now he's distant. I want an outsider's point of view, and I won't reach out first. Story from Throto.
I ache for the OP's confusion and pain when she tolerates hurtful jokes from a partner who claims he loves her, and I hope she finds the courage to express her feelings clearly, so he understands how deeply his words cut.
I think the OP's boyfriend is hiding insecurities behind those snide jokes, and she should call him out harder to see if he truly respects her, or is just playing games.
I'm cracking up thinking about the OP Googling back acne stats to roast her guy. But for real, she deserves a partner who knows teasing has limits before it burns bridges.
I'm not buying that this is harmless teasing, so the OP needs to set boundaries or walk away, because disrespect won't fix itself.
I'm losing my brother over a white dress drama. I am the younger sister stuck in a messy family feud that exploded when my brother George married Yennefer on April 2, 2025 at their civil ceremony. My mom showed up in a cocktail dress with a white base and navy blue lace overlay and ruffled sleeves. Yennefer completely freaked out and nearly kicked her out for wearing white even though the dress was mostly blue lace. Ever since, every conflict circles back to that silly dress apology demand. My mom tried to rebuild bridges almost a year later and got slapped with a list of grievances that included apologizing for her so-called white dress. I defended her and asked why we are obsessing over a petty wardrobe choice. They excluded the family from wedding planning, told me our personal life does not revolve around me when I asked to shift the date because it clashed with my thesis defense, and banned our little nephews from photos. I watched Jennifer swoop in to defend my brother against my other sister-in-law, and even toss insults at toddlers. I reminded everyone how Mom fought tooth and nail for fair alimony after our parents divorced, and how George used to protect me from childhood abuse. 4 days after I vented online, I approached him calmly, and he admitted the dress was just a scapegoat for deeper wounds. I used the stranger's advice to dig into our root issues. I moved abroad for my master's program and flew a 28-hour trip to support them only to feel dismissed and betrayed. Now I have lost my best friend, and feel numb, broken, and still fighting for a family that once held us together. A story from choice_evidence198.
I feel for the OP as she bravely stands up for her mother, leaving empathy and raw honesty into every moment of this painful family rift.
I cannot believe the OP's brother fixates on a dress while ignoring the emotional abuse and power plays. He needs a wake-up call to his own hypocrisy.
The OP saga is like reality drama meets soap opera, complete with wedding dress drama and sibling meltdowns that I can totally laugh at while cringing.
The OP needs to stop dancing around real issues and demand her brother own his betrayal instead of whining about a stupid dress.
My wife will leave me if I quit the military. I have been with my high school sweetheart for 13 years and married almost 11, and we have 3 kids, a 7-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old. I joined the military right out of high school, deployed 3 times to Afghanistan as a 19D cavalry scout, then commissioned as a helicopter pilot in 2020. At home, I have spent only 16 months in the last 3 years due to 1 deployment and various temporary duty assignments, and I am completely worn out and missing my children. I have the chance to leave the service in 2026, and I am desperate to take it, but my wife is dead set against it, telling me I am a man and it is my job to provide stability and that I would be a bad dad if I introduced uncertainty, so every conversation ends in a blow-up. Right now, we bring in about $200,000 after taxes. I already have a bachelor's degree, and I was accepted to a top 10 university to pursue a Master of Business Administration, where new graduates average $200,000 starting salaries with 95% landing jobs within 3 months. We would drop to around $150,000 during my 2 years of school, between her salary, my GI Bill, and Veterans Affairs disability. But after that, we would be far better off. It seems like the only way I can finally be the husband and dad I want, but she says she will leave me. My kids are obviously mine, since they all look exactly like me. Unless she has been secretly flying in my brother while I am away, haha. A story from Turret.
I can feel the OP's heartbreak as he faces an impossible choice between loyal military service and missing moments with his young kids.
I have to ask whether the OP is risking 11 years of marriage and his children's stability for the gamble of a Master of Business Administration with a temporary income drop.
I can just picture the OP dragging 3 sippy cups into a library while his wife rolls her eyes from the hospital nursing station.
The OP needs to realize that a golden headline salary is a faraway promise, and he could be trading steady bills for school debt and a divorce.
Am I out of line for calling my daughter's mother, Mommy, when it upsets my girlfriend? I have been dating my girlfriend for 3 years, and we have worked through a mess of jealousy and trust issues, but she remains insecure. I co-parent my 7-year-old daughter with her mom, who is in a long-term relationship and has 2 more children. I noticed that my daughter still calls her mom, Mommy, but I felt that saying, Mom or your mother, sounded cold, so I would say Mommy when I reminded my daughter to call her mother. My girlfriend claimed this confused our daughter, and insisted separated parents should not call each other Mommy or Daddy, according to a study she read, but I think it is just insecurity and not a real concern for my child. My daughter knows we will never get back together, and we co-parent smoothly, so using the word Mommy does not mislead her. A story from MR Filthin SD4411.
I feel for the OP, navigating his girlfriend's insecurities while he just wants to nurture his daughter's comfort by saying, Mommy, because it feels kinder and more familiar.
I wonder if the OP's girlfriend is really worried about his daughter, Or if she's just using that study as ammo to boss his speech around and keep him on a short leash.
The OP's girlfriend acts like mommy is a relationship threat rather than a cozy term a 7-year-old uses, so it feels like comedy gold.
The OP should firmly tell his girlfriend to stop micromanaging what he calls his child's mom and focus on trust instead of sniping over harmless words.
Despite a year passing, my mom still hasn't met her granddaughter. I have a daughter who is 13 months old, and my mom hasn't so much as met her, or acknowledged her birth, or first birthday. When I first told my mom about my daughter, she said she needed to simmer it in, and then she vanished without a word for 4 months. I finally broke down and sent her a message, pouring out my heart, asking if she hated me, if she wanted to die with that distance, or if it was pride, and clarifying I didn't need a reply, but had to say it. Her answer was a generic invitation to visit, with no apology or real response. And the next day, she asked me what ZZs meant, even though I never mentioned it. This cold dismissiveness isn't new, since she and my grandfather have always shown zero interest in their great-grandchild. On Mother's Day, she bragged about a nice gift from my brother, and couldn't even say my name. I've built my career, moved states, and become a father, with no support. She sits in silence, as if I failed her. I don't want anything from her now, but needed to say this out loud, that over 16 years, she still expects everyone to chase her, while never giving anything back. A couple years ago, on my birthday, she randomly texted a photo of my brother with no message, which felt like a dig and reminder that I'm not her favorite. I've stopped trying to make sense of her subtle games. But I needed to get this off my chest. A story from Throwaway 51602.
I feel the OP's pain and admire their strength for building a loving life for their daughter despite their mother's endless silence.
I can't help but wonder if the OP's mother is avoiding real guilt, more than family, and if her bizarre texts are a desperate ploy to dodge accountability.
I'm cracking up at how the OP's mom treats her daughter like a ghost and thinks a mystery text about ZZZZZZ is going to fix years of cold shoulder.
I'm telling the OP they need to cut the excuses and set a hard boundary with their mom, because this endless silence is disrespectful and toxic.
After 18 months together, I discovered my girlfriend had been faking her enjoyment of my kink. I have been dating my girlfriend for almost 18 months, and from day one I was completely upfront about a kink that I consider a deal breaker if my partner did not enjoy it. She agreed, got excited, and we even planned our Sundays around it, giving those days a special name we both loved. We moved in together and our sex life felt fulfilling and satisfying as we looked forward to that part of our routine each week. But 5 months ago, she started bailing on those plans, blaming low energy or bad days, until I finally got her to admit she secretly hated the kink. I felt blindsided and betrayed, because I would never pressure her into doing something she did not want, so I agreed to drop it to keep the peace. I love her so much and have no intention of leaving, but my sexual frustration has only grown since my deal breaker vanished from our intimacy. After all, I had been so clear at the start that skipping this was non-negotiable. Now I am stuck, feeling depressed, and wondering what to do next. In full disclosure, my username is just a Family Guy reference.
A story from April.
I ache for the OP, because he trusted her so deeply, and she took that trust for granted, leaving him feeling betrayed and alone.
I am baffled that the OP let 5 months of her dishonesty slide, instead of pulling the plug on a deal breaker he set from day one.
I can just picture the OP sitting there every Sunday like a kid waiting for cookies and instead getting a cold glass of milk after she ghosted the whole setup.
I am bluntly saying the OP owned this mess by staying silent while his clear deal breaker was ignored for months, and now he is stuck with regrets.
They faked an entire friendship and then murdered it as a prank. I am not writing for sympathy or advice, but to clear my head. I share a hostel room with 4 others, including R, whom I saw as a literal brother. Feeling lonely, I asked for a girl's Instagram, and R gave me Z's ID. We messaged for a month in that frustrating in-between zone. I never asked for video calls. Z seemed real, with photos and stories, so I believed her. Foolishly, I shared every detail with R and the roommates. Screenshots, doubts, gift ideas. I even quizzed R about Z's authenticity, and he always performed like he was hurt when I doubted. When Z finally arranged our first dinner, she had me split the bill and set the time. That morning, I felt jitters, so I again asked R to confirm, and he staged a shocked reaction plus a fake call. I dressed up with R's coaching advice and headed to meet her. Then she messaged to show her outfit via video call. I stepped onto the balcony and took the call, only to see Kay, another roommate, laughing while the rest roared in the background. Z never existed. The whole thing was a setup. I stood there holding the gift they had prompted me to buy, and they guffawed, even offering to keep it. In that instant, I felt like a clown, and like they'd murdered the trust and bond I believed in. To them, it was just a prank. But for me, a part of me died, and I walk around feeling like a ghost, while they act like nothing happened. A story from sweet_character 5581.
My heart aches for the OP, who trusted R like a brother, only to have his roommates crush his hope with a cruel prank, and I can't stop feeling the sorrow of a precious bond murdered in cold laughter.
Well, the OP got gaslit by R, and a bunch of jokers who pulled the cruelest stunt I've ever imagined. So I have to ask, did they think murdering his trust was hilarious? Or just the epitome of toxic camaraderie?
Okay, I have to laugh but cry at how the OP's roommates staged the most epic fake crush ever, complete with screenshots and a balcony ambush that turned a sweet moment into straight-up clown show central.
Seriously, the OP's so-called friends deserve a reality check for weaponizing fake affection to humiliate him, because there is nothing funny about murdering someone's trust in broad daylight.
Joe's revenge prank turned every salmon label into a screw you message. I have to start by clarifying that this was not my revenge, but I was the one who uncovered it. I worked in the meat department for a very large grocer in the Southwest United States, where country of origin labeling was legally required for all raw seafood. At our full-service counter, we sold farm-raised Atlantic salmon, almost always from Canada, but sometimes from Norway or Argentina. The Hobart scales let you tap presets, like farm-raised, and the country, or manually spell out a country name whenever it changed. When our butcher block supervisor went on a 2-week vacation and the closing counterperson, who I will call Joe, quit, nobody updated the country of origin field for 2 weeks. In the first week, a customer complained that their salmon label said, farm-raised product of, screw you. I shrugged it off as a prank until a second call in the next week confirmed it again. I ran to the scale, and sure enough, Joe had customized the country field to read, screw you. We sold over 400 pounds of salmon with that label, and now Joe's prank is legendary at the store. A story from Blamity Blam Blam.
I can feel the OP's mix of shock and amusement as they uncover Joe's prank, and I'm so glad this playful rebellion united the store in laughter.
I'm impressed the OP caught Joe's sneaky move, and I wonder if his bold screw you label was really a critique of the company or just pure mischief.
I cannot stop laughing imagining customers buying salmon labeled screw you, and the OP stumbling over their shock as Joe's absurd prank turned routine shopping into comedy gold.
Seriously, the OP dropped the ball, letting Joe's prank run wild for 2 weeks, and customers paid for a joke that should have been caught at the scale.
Would I be a jerk for telling my housemate to stop ordering DoorDash? I am 45 and a single mom, juggling college full-time and owning my home in Austin, Texas. Last year, a 35-year-old friend hit me up because he was laid off from his tech job, had burned through his severance, and his unemployment was almost up. With his apartment lease ending, I offered my spare office for $300 a month, plus he could join our dinners or get groceries if he Venmo'd me the cost. Instead of cooking at home, he is door-dashing like crazy, sometimes twice a day, and delivering pizza part-time instead of pursuing a full-time tech role. Now he is blowing more on takeout than I spend feeding the whole household. I get he can spend his own cash, but the deal was cheap rent so he could save, and he clearly is not. Would I be a jerk telling him to stop ordering takeout and eat from the kitchen instead? A story from dwellings_in_low_light.
I admire the OP's generosity, but it breaks my heart to see her friend door dashing, instead of sharing her home-cooked meals, and I wish she would realize that true friendship means gratitude, not a takeaway addiction.
I love that the OP bent over backward to help, and he treats her home like a non-stop restaurant on demand, and I believe she should either raise his rent to match his takeout habit or kick him to the curb.
I cannot stop laughing at how the OP is juggling college and mom life to bankroll her friend's DoorDash obsession while he is busy delivering pizza instead of landing a real tech job.
I see zero excuses for treating her home like a free takeout zone, and I say she must demand he uses the kitchen or face a rent hike that matches his eating habits.
My boyfriend turned my innocent childhood memory into something creepy and left me feeling gross. My boyfriend and I were chatting about our families, and I mentioned both my parents worked full-time when I was little. He asked who babysat me and my brothers, and I said my uncle, who was 18 at the time, watched us when I was about 3 to 5. I casually explained that during potty training he helped me with wiping, even though he made it clear he wanted me to learn fast. I always felt safe around my uncle and never thought twice about it. Then my boyfriend froze and called it super creepy, said my parents were irresponsible and I should feel disturbed. When I told him it was just a normal childhood memory, he got mad and started acting like I was the weird one for not viewing it as sexual. I ended up confused and grossed out over something I always thought was innocent. Later I reminded him I am 29 and he is 36, but that made no difference. I tried defending my uncle and parents, but he doubled down, insisting men are creeps and calling my mindset a red flag for our future with kids. After that fight, he went silent and I decided I was done. It feels strange that such a harmless memory could blow up like this. I am glad to be free of his judgments. A story from Capital Concern 9715.
I think the OP was just sharing a sweet childhood memory, and it is heartbreaking that her ex twisted it into something creepy and shameful.
I bet the OP's ex is just looking for drama, and it tells you all about his agenda when he calls a loving uncle creepy with zero evidence.
I love how the OP refused to be shamed and tossed out toxic vibes before officially ending things with her ex.
I respect that the OP stood her ground and moved on, instead of letting baseless fears ruin her faith and family bonds.
The mysterious buzz in my bedroom. I am not crazy, but I kept hearing a mysterious buzz in my bedroom. That sounded exactly like a cell phone, vibrating for half a second, even when I was using my phone, and no one else was home. But my dog and the random buzz would come from under the bed, or the ceiling at odd times, when the room was quiet, and I could not figure out if it was an appliance in the walls, or a plumbing echo. And the whole thing made me feel paranoid. I posted about it over 1 year ago, and I never managed to catch it happening, because every time I went silent, and waited, it would pause until I stopped paying attention. Then one morning at 3 a.m, I heard the buzz repeating every 2 seconds. And I groped around for my phone, until I realized the sound was coming from my dog, as he exhaled into the stillness. And every time I became tense, he woke up and stopped the buzz. And when I relaxed, he went back to sleep, and his rhythmic breathing started again. Now I am pretty satisfied that the mysterious bedroom vibration was just my dog's breath, and I have not heard it since, but I will watch for his nose next time. A story from Direct-Caterpillar77.
I feel so relieved for the OP, because solving that mystery must have brought such peace to their nightly routine.
I love how the OP turned detective, only to find that the big bad buzz was just a dog breath wearing a villain mask.
The OP's story had me checking under my pillow and then laughing out loud, imagining a dog auditioning for a cell phone role with that perfect buzz.
The OP spent forever hunting phantom vibrations when a simple dog check could have ended the mystery in seconds.
When my miserly boss stole my wages and tried to hide my taxes, I set the tax office on him.
I worked for a sales company with an ultra-tight-fisted owner, who, after I challenged him over poor sales, decided to stiff me on my wages, so I lined up another job and quit. Before that, I had discovered that whenever someone left after a disagreement, he would hold their tax certificate until after the year closed, and then send it showing gross wages as net, with no tax paid, so there were no pay slips or proof. 1 week before the last day to lodge tax returns, I filed my own return, claiming maximum tax withholdings as part of my wages, attached my bank statements, and a letter explaining that my former boss refused to provide the certificate. 2 days later, I received a fully paid tax notice and a refund check. Then a team of inspectors and auditors raided his business the same Thursday. His company shut down for months and reopened only with family staff, despite pulling in millions a year before. If you mess around, you find out. A story from Woodfordian.
I can feel how deeply the OP was wronged, and I admire that they bravely took control instead of letting the boss get away with abuse.
I have to ask why the OP's boss thought he could hide wages and dodge taxes in a time when digital trails are everywhere.
I cannot stop laughing at how the OP turned his boss's greed into a tax office showdown that ended with a raid and a humbling comeback.
I respect that the OP took swift, no-nonsense action to protect their rights instead of letting corporate greed slide any further.
I bought a house with my fiancée for a cross-country move, and she just backed out at the last minute. I'm thrilled when I land a new job that triples my salary and lines up with my career goals, and I convince my fiancée to chase her dream of living on the East Coast with me. We pick and buy a house together, plan to fly east on July 29th to paint and prep before movers arrive on August 7th. She backs out at the last minute, staying home 3 times now to avoid long flights and car rides, promising she'll fly out Sunday instead. Then just as I'm about to head to the airport, she texts around midnight. "I'm not coming. I'm so sorry," and hangs up. I'm blindsided and scrambling to figure out if I should try to talk her into it or if I did something wrong. 3 days later, she shows up at my new office and explains the truth. She found out 2 months earlier that she's pregnant and was too scared to face the pregnancy and raise a baby away from her mom. So she only told her mom on Monday and got a ticket to surprise me. Now that she's here, we admit we need to work on our communication, plan to postpone the wedding, and figure out how to support her through the pregnancy. A story from Direct-Caterpillar77.
I'm so concerned for how lonely the OP must feel, wondering if fear and stress overshadowed their love, and I hope he finds a gentle way to reassure her and rebuild trust.
I can't help wondering if the OP ignored warning signs and maybe she's running because he piled too much change on her without checking in sooner.
I'm laughing at the OP's midnight airport sprint, only to learn she was hiding a surprise pregnancy, and thinking these two definitely need a comedy of errors to bond over.
I'll say the OP needs to stop babying her fears, demand honesty up front, and set clear expectations before moving forward so they don't get blindsided again.
Keep telemarketing me, and I will call you directly. Back in the mid-2000s, my family lived in West Michigan, and despite signing up for the Do Not Call list, a local home renovation company kept ringing my landline. We always told them we were not interested and asked to be removed, yet the calls never stopped. About 6 months later, on a Saturday morning, my father and I were installing fencing when a young salesman walked uninvited through our yard and introduced himself as a sales schmuck from that same company. He asked if we needed help, so I told him to grab a bag of red mixed concrete and follow me, which he promptly declined before I politely shooed him away. That evening, I looked up the company online and found the name of their head of marketing. On Monday, I called and told him I would not tolerate the endless calls or his representative wandering my property. He apologized profusely, and after 1 or 2 more calls where I read him the riot act, they finally stopped. A story from SIP1975.
I admire how the OP stood firm and voiced rightful frustration with gentle strength.
I cannot help but ask if the OP should have secretly recorded that call just to watch heads explode.
I can see the OP picturing that clueless rep sneaking through the yard like a sitcom extra, ready for a pie in the face.
I admire that the OP called out the company head on day 1, instead of letting that pushy representative keep at it.
My wife kicked out my cousins and their friends after their cruel April Fool's prank made her think I was cheating. I never saw this coming. On April 2nd, 2025, my cousins and their friends showed up unannounced for a family get-together. We cooked, we drank, I laughed, then they pranked my wife by claiming I was cheating. She burst in, grabbed my phone, locked herself in the bedroom for half an hour, and when she came out, she threatened to wreak havoc if I ever stepped out of line. My cousins tried to apologize, but she kicked them out. I told her I have her back, but my cousins say I am too lenient. 3 days later, I pleaded with her to forgive them and to stop snooping on my messages, but she refused and insisted they stay away forever. On April 9th, she broke down screaming she married me to have my loyalty and demanded I cut them off or lose her. I finally told my cousins they are on suspension unless she says otherwise and spent the night comforting my wife, promising to never let anyone cross that line again. A story from Choice_Evidence1983.
I feel for the OP, because his wife's trust was shattered, and she deserves unwavering support and gentle reassurance to heal her hurt.
The OP might need to draw a firm line and stir up some accountability by reminding his cousins and friends that games that threaten a marriage are not harmless fun and deserve a real-world reality check.
This whole saga is sitcom gold, because nobody pranks a marriage like this. And now the OP gets to put his cousins in comedic timeout, while still playing the devoted spouse.
The OP has one job: to protect his marriage and drop anyone who treats his wife like a joke. No excuse, no exceptions.
My girlfriend's rise to fame has me feeling totally inadequate. I have been dating my girlfriend for 3 years, and we are both actors, but now she just booked a life-changing gig and is rising to fame, while I am still living paycheck to paycheck. I am thrilled for her, but suddenly drowning in insecurity and intrusive thoughts that she might lose interest because I feel inadequate next to her success. There is no change in how she treats me. She still tells me I am supportive and loves that about me, but I keep thinking she could entertain other options, even though I know she would never cheat. I am not jealous of other men or trying to compete. I just worry she cares that I am not at her level and want to feel like I deserve her. I shared these fears with her and she reassured me, and now I realize These thoughts say nothing about our relationship. So I plan to work on my self-worth. Maybe talk to a therapist through work, lean on close friends, and stop dumping unproven fears on her while focusing on building my own confidence. I appreciate all the advice I have gotten, and I will check back in a few months to share how it is going.
A story from _aromatic.
I admire the OP's honesty and feel his insecurity so deeply as he tries to balance pride in her success with fear of losing his worth.
I think the OP is letting imagined threats hijack his confidence and needs to challenge why he gives those intrusive thoughts so much power.
Girl, the OP is stuck in a whirlwind of what-ifs and needs to show those pesky doubts the door, so love can throw a party instead.
The OP must stop the mental gymnastics and face his self-doubt head-on if he ever wants to feel worthy of the woman he loves.
When I said my boyfriend's garlic chicken and rice was just fine, did I mess up dinner etiquette? Unlike his family who lavishes accolades over every bite, I kept it real when he asked about his garlic chicken breast with rice and salad by shrugging that everything tasted as expected, even though he had snuck in extra garlic and soy sauce. I told him I do not do constant food critique, and in my home we just chat, so he stormed off to eat in his office, leaving me wondering if I should fake more enthusiasm next time. A story from a previous Reddit user.
I think the OP's honesty is refreshing, but a little kindness in a relationship goes a long way.
Is the OP seriously blaming him for wanting a little praise? Or is she just allergic to basic human manners?
Well, you can love your low-key dining vibe, but maybe next time fake a little flavor so you don't end up eating solo in the office.
The OP's being lazy and rude if she can't muster a simple compliment for her boyfriend's home cooking.
My neighbor is losing her mind over my front fence. I used to get along great with my next-door neighbor, an older Polish woman who lives alone and is obsessive about her grass. She installed an iron fence down the left side of her house, but left the right side open so she would hop across my yard, and strangers would wander in too. After several stray visitors, my husband and I decided to build a 6-foot front fence. She first offered her contractor, but when we asked for a quote, she exploded and accused us of stealing her land, and even called our alderman, who sided with us. We offered her a key, but she refused. During construction, she harassed the crew and called the police, who arrived in 4 patrol cars and told her to stay inside. She spent days staring at our posts and enlisted a realtor friend who confirmed our property line. A city inspector then showed up unannounced, demanding we cut the height to 5 feet while refusing to leave contact information. My alderman discovered she filed a false complaint weeks before our panels went up, and she rents an illegal basement apartment. I have video of her raking our cement and spitting on posts, and I am now preparing a harassment claim and a cease and desist because I just want peace. A story from choice_evidence 1983.
I feel for the OP having to stand firm against her neighbor's endless accusations, and I admire how she is gathering proof and leaning on her community for support.
I wonder if the OP might be letting this drag on too long because she's afraid of escalation, but maybe a firmer boundary earlier could have saved her some drama.
I can't help but laugh, picturing the neighboring curlers pacing and raking your cement like it's some epic turf war, and I'm here for the absurdity.
Enough is enough. The OP needs to go legal, then ignore the neighbor and stop giving her chances to continue her crazy antics.